development. All right, so Grandma, please talk to us about the situation at Nathan's birth.
I was present at birth of Nathan Gichohi. I was present and I was in the labor room with the mother. And when the baby was coming out, he had to be pulled out. So for a mother, I knew there was an issue there, why he could not come through normally. And when the doctors started talking and looking at him, I realized we are dealing with something that is not usual. And therefore, it was difficult for me to tell the mother, who kept on asking, "What is it, Mom? How is the baby? What is happening?" But for me, I took courage in my faith. I knew Nathan was a gift from God. And you don't choose the kind of gift that you are going to receive. So for me, I gathered courage from there and knew this was a journey we were going to start that we didn't know how.
All right, so let's talk about the challenges that you have had to go through as a caretaker, as well as the rest of the caretakers around here today.
The most challenging thing with Nathan was he had to undergo an operation even before he was 6 months because his legs were not straight. He had to be corrected. He had a hernia on the stomach, which had also to be corrected. So we underwent those surgeries in the beginning before he was 1 year old. At 1 year, Nathan started growing teeth. And that was the greatest challenge we ever got because his jaws, because his condition, he has tight muscles. His jaws, he could not chew. So every time he tried to chew something, he would bite his tongue. He had the challenges too of a very tight chest. And that is where physiotherapy came in.
Grandma, I'm intrigued. Where do you draw your strength in taking care of Nathan up to 10 years that he celebrates today?
The milestone we see is because of the great family support, starting from the head of the family who embraced him, loved him, and made everybody in the family love him. So even as a caregiver, to me my strength comes from that affirmation that the head of the family, my husband, supports us wholeheartedly. So even in caregiving, I'm able to look after Nathan with the other support staff that we have around us, because it is not easy for one person to look after a child like this one.
So now, describing his life at 10 years, reflecting back, what do you see him enjoy to do? How does he relate with everybody around him, and what excites him?
He will enjoy, for example, with his siblings. He has cousins who are, maybe some of them are his age mates, 10-year-old. And he will enjoy watching football with the boys on the TV. So he will enjoy everything every other child will enjoy. For example, watching the cartoons. He'll enjoy watching cartoons with them. He'll enjoy being taken outside, shown around, see the birds, see the animals around, go to the garden. Yeah, he enjoys all those activities.
What are specific things right now, as Nathan is 10 years old, that excite you about him and that you would call milestones that he has achieved through this situation?
I'm proud of him because these days, you see, you can stretch him. You can dress him easily. It didn't come that on the first day. Dressing him was a hassle. I'm proud that he can cough and clear his chest. And we don't have to be running to the hospital every other time. Yeah. So there is a lot we have achieved with him. His legs are more flexible now. Yeah, he can sit supported.
Now, as Nathan's mom, what has this whole journey been like for you? Please take us through your experience with your baby, Nathan.
Nathan's journey has been marked by challenges, but also by unwavering support of his family. My dad, as the head of the family, has played a pivotal role in embracing, integrating, and celebrating Nathan, creating a homecoming ceremony that welcomed him with open arms, enabling him to thrive from day one. I would like for us to break the stigma surrounding disability or the children living with cerebral palsy, showcase the unique talents of our children, and from as early as intervening with early physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. My son Nathan has benefited with that from the get-go. We can see a lot of improvements in the sense of how he will even cough. A simple thing as coughing. For us as a family, it is a celebration moment. A simple thing as he's been able to swallow and not choke on that, it is something to celebrate. So what I am calling out for is, as a society, we should be able to embrace and celebrate those little wins.
As Nathan's grandfather and the pillar of this household, what motivates you to keep taking care of this beautiful young boy, even though it's not exactly easy, as we have heard from the mother and the grandmother?
There are situations that come naturally that you have to accept, like he was born with that problem, cerebral palsy. Although we in the family prefer to talk about differently abled, because he is differently abled, and sure he is differently abled.
Okay, thanks. And lastly, a message to the young parents out there that are taking care of children that you have called differently abled. What would you say to them?
We need the message spread out there so that the misconceptions that's allowed in the communities and society at large about what cerebral palsy or being differently abled is and how it comes, so that people throw away the misconceptions and the stigma around it. You'll hear people talk about witchcraft. It's a curse from what and for what? So that abandonment doesn't help.
Parents with children with special need is that these children need to be loved. These children need support from us. We need to appreciate the fact that God gave us a gift.
By sharing our story, I hope to inspire others and create a more inclusive and supportive environment for all.
We discuss cerebral palsy, a condition in children that is as a result of abnormal brain development. All right, so Grandma, please talk to us about... That is the Gishohi family, an example of a family that has a child living with a cerebral palsy, but they have not given up on their child, as you can see, and they're telling a story of success. At least the child has lived up to 10 years and they were celebrating his birthday. So I think that mostly what these children need is really support and nothing more. Now, before we move on, before I introduce the guest we have today, you also have to know that there is actually an ongoing commemoration at Blend Gardens in Boise. So take your children there so that you can connect with the rest of the community that have children living with this condition, get to learn more, get free tests, and there is a lot of entertainment for the children as well. So please head to Blend Gardens in Boise so that you can be a part of this community and feel at home. Otherwise, welcome once again. I am Viola Xasia, NTV Medical Matters. We are supported by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And our guest today is Cesazi Felix. He is a physiotherapist with Hope Speaks. And without further ado, we are going to go straight into discussing cerebral palsy. Let's start off, Felix, with the definition of cerebral palsy in the simplest terms possible and what it's doing to the child's body and brain at that time.
Well, thank you very much, and I would like to greet our dear viewers. And before I continue, there's always this statement that I always want to make, that for all it takes for evil to succeed is for men and women of goodwill to do nothing. So from the video we saw as the program was starting, let's all embrace that however small you are, you can always do something in this child's life. So cerebral palsy, there are mainly like two words that we can all see, and one of is cerebral, which you could go for brain, and palsy is always paralysis. So yeah, so it means that in whatever we're going to say, there will always an element of paralysis. And this is more of a disorder or a group of disorders, which is named, the disorder is a movement disorder, which is as a result of brain damage. But this damage is not progressive or is non-progressive. That's the simplest term we can describe cerebral palsy. And it all happens that as this damage happens, it happens to a growing brain, or to a brain of a child that is still growing. Meaning there's a stage where the brain of a child there's a stage where we reach, and if a child gets a damage to the brain, we don't call it cerebral palsy, we instead call it acquired brain damage. And so any abnormal development of the brain that happens between 0 age to 3 or below 5, we'll always call it cerebral palsy, because it will result in two different aspects of life that will affect the child's movement. That's why we saw that the child is not able to sit, the child is not able to crawl, the child is not able to feed, because even feeding itself requires muscles. The lips, the tongue, that's a muscle. The child will have issues breathing, because we also know we have muscles that help us in breathing. So the child will not be able to even speak, using the tongue. That's also a muscle. So anything that will alter the normal functioning of the muscle or of the motor, it will result into what we call cerebral palsy in a child.
What is the cause of cerebral palsy?
Yeah, there are so many causes of cerebral palsy, like we all know. And however, it's not exact. Like you can't really say this is the exact cause. But we know our research available shows that most of the causes of CPO, cerebral palsy, usually start even during pregnancy. Most of the causes, that's around like 60 to 80%. Then the rest of the causes will be after now, during pregnancy, during labor, and then after. So in most cases we have things that may result as maybe there's abnormal growth or abnormal development of the brain for the fetus or the child that is growing, that can cause cerebral palsy, or a child is born may have issues. And as a result of that also, there are also predisposing factors like the mother using some drugs, alcohol, smoking, different medications can also alter the normal development of the child. Then also deficiency of certain minerals. We have seen so many mothers being told to go and take folic acid. We realize that folic acid is very, very important in the normal development of the brain, what we call the neural tube. So the neural tube is the one that develops into the brain and then the spinal cord. So this is so visible in children who actually have hydrocephalus and spina bifida. And we are very much, we know that a child with hydrocephalus can also present the same features as a child who has cerebral palsy. So all that can be an issue. Then there are issues that come as a result of genetical problems that everyone cannot explain in most cases. However, there's so many research that are being done, but it's also believed that some genetic issues can actually cause cerebral palsy. But then in that line, there are so many common things that we always see, especially now, let's say, during labor. We have seen so many mothers, and all of them have the same story. If you ask someone, be like, how was your labor? Like, how did you deliver? Most people will be like, it was normal delivery, vaginal delivery. But for us, we believe that actually someone to say, I delivered normally, is when you actually produce a child, you're okay as a mother, but also the child is fine. Yes, so Most times there's always what we call delayed labor. You know, the child at times have issues where we have a child is produced and does not cry at birth, which is always an emergency in most of the cases at hospitals. Why? Because most of the times we believe that when a child gets out, they are now having their own system that has helped them to breathe on their own. And most of the cases, the first air we breathe in will always open up the lungs. And sometimes that's a reflex that is scary to the child. That's one. Two, it's also painful. So in the long run, the child will be able to do what? To cry. So it means any interruption where the child doesn't get to breathe normally or to get oxygen now, it will affect the brain, and that will be an issue. So also when a mother has those severe illnesses before pregnancy, before delivery, during pregnancy, have those severe illnesses, it can also be a predisposing factor. We have looked at obesity, can also be a factor. Then also what we call pre-eclampsia. We have seen so many mothers who actually develop hypertension during pregnancy, and it causes complications. That could also be a factor that might lead a mother to produce or a child to have cerebral palsy. Then we also seen where, you know, issue that may cause delayed labor, and that is part of like breech. When a child is supposed to start to come out, the head first, and then instead there is the feet. And that would be an issue. So that lag that happens, rushing the mother to the theater, then you have to do Caesar, then all that. And sometimes the kid is tired, you know, they're all rushed to, you know, put on oxygen, all that. And if you ask most of the mothers, the history rotates around there. Child did not cry at birth, child had jaundice, we all know jaundice. Jaundice can also be another factor that might cause a child to get cerebral palsy. However, our people must also understand that a child can actually, you can produce your child so well and everything is okay. They even go to a stage where we easily monitor, because cerebral palsy can easily be monitored between like 6 months most times. However, even at 3 months we can tell, but from 6 months and above, because that's when there is normal motor development, the muscle growth. And this is where we have said it's a movement disorder, meaning it affects mainly the musculoskeletal system. So around there, when a child can be like at 5 months, where we know the child at least at 5 months they're able to sit, developmental milestones, the child is able to sit. So when a child is able to sit at 6, they are crawling at 7, 8, 9, they have started to stand, hold on certain objects, 12 months taking steps, and then out of blue, the child gets a problem. And we have issues like trauma, maybe a child has hit his head down and has caused issues. We have severe illnesses, like we said, meningitis can be an issue, infection can be an issue, especially looking at infections that affect the CNS, the central nervous system, will also cause problems. Malaria. We have had the commonest word we all know, cerebral malaria. So all that can actually affect a child who has already been able to progress, and they're even attaining their developmental milestones so well. Some can even be at school, but then they get an issue and the whole change happens. We look at children who have sickle cell. They are most likely to have that problem because of the crisis and because sickle cells are prone to stroke, so which could affect them and then get paralysis. So in all that umbrella, there are so many things that we can say that can actually cause cerebral palsy. But as anyone who comes, then we go ahead to ask all this history to trace exactly what could happen, because there are chances that you might get to have a child who may present like a child with cerebral palsy, but when actually it's something else that is causing it. Yes.
I was actually going to now drive you to how quickly can it be detected, how early can it be detected, what are the signs, but also what should one look out for all the parents watching to be able to rush to the hospital as early as possible.
Well, like we said that being a movement disorder, it doesn't mean that it only affects the muscles. It also has so many things that will actually, it will affect the child's speech, it will affect how the child feeds, it will affect how the child breathes, because we have actually saw that chest problems are so common. it will also affect on, it might even affect the behavior of the child. You can find a child with CP but with autism. It's very, very common, and it's very possible. Now, at 3 months, you can be able to detect through observation and physical assessments. You can easily tell that maybe this child has an issue. Because like we said, we follow what we call the developmental milestones, especially the normal motor developmental milestones. We expect a child that at least at 5 months, they're able to sit without support. They're able to control their head and neck. There's no child that can sit when they can't control their neck muscles. Meaning if the neck muscles are weak, then they won't be able to sit. So by 6 months, if you see that, then there is a problem. It's what we call a head lag. You sit, you make a child lie on their back, what we call the spine. If you're pulling them up, they can't bring their head up. It's actually falling backwards.
I've seen that.
Yeah, that's a very, very key factor, especially a child who is below 6 months. So you have a child that is, because cerebral palsy will cause spasticity, that stiffness. Like we said, there are so many different types, like we'll look at that, where it can easily be an indicator where you have to see that some of the things you have to look at. One also, below like 4 months, there's that crying, neurological crying, abnormal crying.
I've seen that one.
We know kids cry, we know babies cry, but there is that abnormal crying where if it's too much, then you need to go and look out for a health worker to be able to rule out.
There were children that cried that much but later on outgrew it. Would that mean that there was a possibility of getting sick but they survived?
Well, there are so many things that actually cause that, the crying. Like that's why I said neurological crying are very, very specific. It's what we call colic, where the child, it actually has not even the best explanation on how they tell, but it's believed that because the child is trying now to start to feed, and then at times they're feeling the stomach pains and all that could also be an issue. But then this is different. And also, when we are talking about all these signs, we also want to go back and draw what we said about the history, your history. How was it during labor, during pregnancy, and all? Because also this one will lead you to being able to identify some of the things that could be causing issues. So we looked at spasticity, we look at the child not being to feed well, we have looked at the child actually who is too weak, floppy, muscle weakness, where his head lag. We also have to go back and see that the child has abnormal developmental delay, or he or she is not growing like any other child. You have a child at 1 year and they're not able to sit on their own. You have a child at 2 years, they're not able to stand on their own. You have a child at 12 months, at 18 months, they're not able to say any word or to speak. You get, they're drooling. There's also epileptic seizures. Most of them usually have that actually. So all that can be features that you would look at and be like, at least my child, I think there's a problem with the child that I have, that maybe you need to look for a healthy worker to help you and rule out certain things.
Okay, so we shall be going for a commercial break, but in about a minute, what causes a child to have a very heavy head, but they are quite normal actually, but they cannot lift their head?
A very heavy head, there are two things involved. We talked about hydrocephalus, that at times it has so many types. There are children who have actually issues, and then with time it gets normal as time goes on. Then there are also children that will have actually heavy heads, and there are two things, like heavy head but they're able to control it. That's very, very okay. It can be as a result of developmental anomalies, that where you find certain parts are too big, others are too small. Then a heavy head and then they're not able to control it, then it's as a result of muscle weakness. So if the muscles for the neck are not strong enough to hold the head, then there is an issue. That's why hydrocephalus children are able to control their neck when they go under therapy.
Oh, all right then. Thank you for clarifying that. So let's go for a quick commercial break, but do stay with us. We shall be returning. We're talking about cerebral palsy. Stay with us. There is so much more we need to hear from the doctor. We shall be back shortly. Welcome back from the break, and thanks for staying with us. It's NTV Medical Matters. I am Viola Sassia, and we are talking about cerebral palsy today as the world commemorates international awareness for this condition. Also at Blend Gardens in Boise, there is actually a function right now happening. There will be free checkups as well as entertainment for the children. So if your child has cerebral palsy, please head to Blend Gardens in Boise and join the rest of the community to feel at peace, at least with your child. So in studio today we have Dr. Sestazi Felix, not a doctor actually, physiotherapist, my bad, and he's from Hope Speaks. He works with his children. So we're speaking about this before the break. Let's continue. So doctor, why do I keep saying doctor? Physiotherapist, I know that's, I'm used to talking to doctors. So since it has no cure, what can be done to make it better for all the parents who are waiting to hear a word of hope?
Well, I want our people to understand that this is a permanent condition or disorder that happens, but it's non-progressive. Like, it doesn't worsen. What usually gets worse are the symptoms the child will get. And there are so many things that we all need to understand, or we need to do to make sure that this child is able to have a life. I usually tell parents that don't force what you think is right for the child, but do the right thing for the child. Don't do what you think should, like what you wish. Do what is supposed to be done to the child. Like if a child is not able to, for you want the child to walk, but the child at this moment doesn't need to walk. The child at this moment wants medication for seizures. So that's why, that's the very, very key factor, that as long as you have this child. When you have this child, life will not be the same. So many things will change in the family, in people around you, and you as a parent. And it's not easy to handle this child alone as a parent. What does it imply? That people around you will play a very, very big, important role in raising or making sure that this child has a life. So we manage this child as a team. However, there are so many things that will happen. Like if you look at this child, or if a child has cerebral palsy, it also depends on the extent of the damage. There are those ones that will have mild effects, and it will be easy to actually progress through therapy and even go to school. And there are those ones that have severe cases, and that one now will be different. So you have to look at maintaining, you understand? So when we look at this child, like we said, how the child presents will determine the mode of management. And in this case, we have like a team that come into play. One is early intervention is very important. So because like we said, this is a growing brain. So meaning if we do therapy as early as possible, then also results, getting better results is there. It's actually, we are most likely to have better results. So we have physiotherapy, where we come in to help in motor, that's the muscles. The child is stiff, then you have to relax, do exercise to relax the child, train this child to go through motor development, where you have to train the child to sit, train the child to crawl, train the child to stand, train the child to walk. We have said also that at times these children will have issues with speech, and feeding. So the speech therapist will come in to give us a help and help us to train feeding, to train speech. But also speech is not about only verbal communication. Actually speech, I can sit here and you're there. We don't say any word, but we communicate. So it's about communicating, how you really relate with this child. This one will help you also. Then at times we said sometimes these children have behavior problems. It will come in at times. And then also there are what we call activities of daily living. Dressing yourself is part of it. Combing your hair, cleaning, hygiene. getting, you know, all that. It's part of eating. So the OT, or what we call occupational therapist, will always come in to help us. We say that at times these children have they have epileptic seizures, and at times, so meaning you will need a neurologist to come in and be able to make us to do prescription. And once all this is done, then trust me, you will be seeing the results. However, the only problem is some of us, we don't really want to take time to understand these children. We just want those immense, rapid results. When we are handling these children, patience is very important. So we celebrate small results because we have put in so much time, so much energy to achieve these results. So we celebrate small steps. And this is why, for us, we call these children heroes. Because first of all, they will teach you how to be attentive, to be patient. So attention is very, very important. Then, I usually tell people that actually these children, they don't know that they have a problem. They have no clue about their situation.
Is that so?
Most. They have no clue about their situation. That's why they will feel your energy.
Oh.
If you come and you really show you don't care about them, they will feel it. If you come and you really care and you show love, they will know this one loves me, this one. So they are not worried of the fact that they can't sit on their own, they can't walk on their own, they can't feed themselves, but they can feel that you are really not giving them the attention they need. We usually tell that, so it means that the person that will be most affected are the family members, you, the parent. So if you as a parent work on yourself, it will be so easy for the child to progress, and also you yourself as a family to be able to progress through, and you manage this child so well.
There is a bit of stigma surrounding this condition, as well as other related conditions that we've spoken about in that same category. But why do you think the stigma persists, and how best can we get rid of it?
Oh, a day like this is one of the days where we come together to bridge the information gap. So information being power, it also influences how the community thinks, how the community perceives most of the things. So I don't usually like to use the word perception because it limits our thinking and our understanding of things. So I usually want to broaden it and go the broader term, which is perspective. So the perspective of our community must change, where we have to look at things in a very broader way, rather than looking at them in a very, very small thing. It's more of like we really don't understand how things work. So one of the things we have, which is a result of stigma, is information gap. Our people don't really know what is CP, or even when you look at other disabilities that actually happen. Most of our people don't have information and they don't know. That's why when we come in shows like this where we are telling them, look, this is a medical condition that happens as a result of this and this and this. And when they get to know, maybe they will be able to embrace, because when someone doesn't know, whoever brings an argument, everyone will buy it. So when they have the right, because if you say that now, that's not it, then what is it? But when we give them information, so it plays a very important role. So our people need to embrace in knowing and seeking for the right information. And this is also, another thing is that people who have these children and the community also need to understand that we are all created and made differently, and everyone has a potential on how they can do things in a different way. The fact that I don't look the same the way you are, it doesn't mean that we all can do the right thing and live a normal life.
Actually, we shall be speaking about some of the things these children are able to do, apart from just being a little bit different. What are they able to do? And again, I just want to repeat this to re-echo what you said to the parents, that we take time to study and understand what's happening in this child's life in order not to jump to conclusions of witchcraft and things like that that really stigmatize our neighbors and family.
Yeah, true.
I think that's what we found out in the field, that there is a lot of stigma about this, that is witchcraft or something along those lines. So I was requesting we just stop it. At least we are getting educated by the doctor, which is very good, and this is why we are here on NTV Medical Matters. Also, the phone lines are open. If you have any pressing question, you can ask the doctor directly. I also just wanted to remind you quickly that there is an eye camp at Mengo on the 7th and 8th. Go there and get your eyes checked, as we discussed last week. And so that is it. So let's talk about how available that kind of service is. Physiotherapy, therapy for these children, how affordable and how available is it for a common Ugandan?
Looking at that, that's part of the challenges that we actually have. Therapy is very, very expensive. That's, to be honest, for sure.
Okay.
And we are looking at a child who will benefit from consistent therapy. And we're not only saying that this child, we have even said that this child may not even be seeing one therapist, they may be seeing very many therapists, like 4 of them. But
we have a caller on the line. I will interrupt you there. Hello, NTV Medical Matters. What's your question?
This is Nalinda Rebecca calling in from Kavaganda.
Okay.
When I got pregnant and gave birth to my child, but the child laid crying. But now the baby is old. Yes.
How old and what's the problem?
The baby is now, the child is now 11 years.
Yes, please.
But had differences in speaking, pronouncing words. And even amidst there, when he was still young, he got a problem where he couldn't breathe properly. He went through an operation. So I don't know. The speaking problem, is it because of laying and crying when I gave birth to him? Because the doctor has told me I was supposed to give birth tonight. But it took time and I gave birth in the morning at around 11. Now my child does not speak well. So I don't know, would it also be a problem? Even understanding some things is a bit slow. But I thank God he does the rest of the things. But things to do with the speech and even understanding is a bit slow in teaching certain things.
All right, Rebecca, thank you for your question. Let the doctor get back to you.
Like we said, that part of the history which he has actually mentioned could actually be a predisposing factor that could cause an issue of brain damage. And most of the things that will happen, some things will be severe, others might not be severe. And also we say that speech can actually be part of the issue that could be affected, like the speech difficulties. So yeah, and cognition at times it can also be an issue. So yeah, I think it will be.
We have another caller. Who's there? NTV Medical Matters. Your question and name. Well, I think we lost that one.
Yeah, so like it could be an issue, but the most important factor that I would actually let her encourage her to do is to look for a speech therapist,
okay,
and be able to reassess again and lay strategies. He said about understanding, an occupational therapist can help us in trying to improve on his cognition by designing different activities that would help this child. So that would be very important, but they can really progress and be able to do something well.
So when a child has gone through physiotherapy and therapy and several other, other things, what are some of the stuff they're able to do in their daily life? Like, can they go to school? Can they do anything on their own? Or is it... Oh, we actually have someone. NTV Medical Matters, your name and your question. So
yeah, a child can be able, like we said, depending on the extent of the damage, we actually have children that we work on, progress well, stand, go through their normal developmental milestones, however they are delayed, but they're able to achieve that. And something I didn't say, that actually children with cerebral palsy will grow into adults living with cerebral palsy. And we've seen them, so many out there at universities. And if you go for an event like the one where it's at the Brain Gardens, you'll be able to see adults that have really progressed well. If you go to special schools, you will see adults that are very progressed well. Like we said, it might affect their motor and the way how they're walking, it's not okay. However, they're a bit, the balance is not all that, but they're able to progress. But cognitively, everything is okay. And able to go through school, to go into classes and learn and get a skill. So they are able to do all those things, to be able to walk, stand, go to school, handle activities, depending on the extent of the damage.
NTV Medical Matters, please step away from your TV set. We had an echo in that call, but I guess we have a lot of questions coming in. I'm very happy that our audience is actually picking this up and trying to get the information you're giving. So is there a case where a cerebral palsy has been cured completely, or and the person has lived their full life, or is that something that we should not even try to think about?
I'll go back to what we said. It's a permanent brain damage, non-progressive, meaning the damage the child gets does not reduce or increase throughout time. Okay. But the effects it causes to the child can improve or become worse. You understand? So that's why we say that when we are looking at these children, when we're looking at saying that we are going to cure, we're actually looking at helping this person progress through life and have an active, productive life. However, in severe cases, we look at what could be the dangers if this child doesn't get help. Okay. It becomes more worse. You look at children who get therapy are totally different from children who don't get therapy. And everyone will agree with me. One is they will get contractures. If a child is not able to extend or flex their arm or their elbow, it means they are like this. Then you eventually find they have stiffness. So you eventually find they have chest problems. You eventually find that they get constipation. All that will be a result if the child is not well cared of. That's why when we're looking at managing these children, like I said, we don't do according to what we want. We do according to what they need or what is supposed to be done for them. You get? So in all the ways when we're looking at this child, we all look at how best can we help this child to be independent. You get? So independence of this individual is what we usually focus on all the time.
What food is supposed to be given to this child during that kind of assistance that can assist them get better? Or is there no such thing?
Actually, I even forgot to talk about nutrition because it's very, very, very important. One of the things we face with them is that because the GIT is affected, they have issues is how they digest their food. So it means there will be cases of malnutrition. So we need to feed them with food that has a lot of nutrients, like proteins, food that has a lot of minerals. You get irons, vitamins. Then we have to make sure they drink a lot. They drink a lot, like we said, they usually have issues with constipation. Why? Because we said if a child has like spastic cerebral palsy, where the muscles are so tight and the muscle tone is too high, it means it will affect the mobility of his or her GIT. So meaning even digestion will be affected. So you don't need to feed that child heavy carbohydrates. It means it won't be easily digested, and those are the issues we've said of constipation. So we actually we just have to make sure we are giving balanced diet because it's very important. Another thing is we have to look at that they have issues with the way how the body fights diseases. Their immunity is always so down. First of all, they're inactive. In a normal child, you expect them to stand, to walk. When you're active, then also it helps us to build up our immunity very fast. But this is a child who is always down all the time. They can't sit on their own. They are lying down completely. So it means also the way how the blood flows, the way how the chest expands, and all that is compromised. So it will also affect the way they digest their meals, which will eventually result into weakening their immunity. So it means if they are not feeding well, then we have a problem. So that's why nutrition is very, very important in making sure we raise this child so well and they have a normal life like any other child. So, but the most important factor that I want our people to understand is that when you're handling this child, you handle this child like any other child. And it sounds like a harsh statement. If you have a child with cerebral palsy, you don't need to leave work and say, I'm going to go home and look after this child. Like we say that if you yourself, you're not well, there is no any other day that this child will always be well. So what you have to do is you handle this child like any other child. What does it imply? All the care you give to another child is the same care you give this one. And allow everyone at home to be involved, because it will help you to reduce pressure. You can't say that for me, when I'm not at home, no one will look after this child. We saw the first video. It was actually a very, very important video for us to learn that the support system you have will play a very, very important role to help you ease the pressure and the burden. And also, it will also indirectly now go to the normal progress of the child that you have at home.
For Nathan, I had the grandmother talk about he had small lungs at birth. How connected are the lungs with the spinal cord and then the brain?
Yeah, there's what we call, most of the times when a child is being formed, there are things we didn't talk about, but what we call abnormal congenital deformities.
Okay.
So the congenital deformities can happen anywhere. It can be the heart, and we've seen, like, maybe I'll talk mainly like Down syndrome. Children with Down syndrome, they usually have congenital deformities, especially with their heart. They have heart problems. So during the formation, anything can happen to any organ, like we said. But in the long run now, it goes where the child has to present with cerebral palsy, but also with lung problems, can even go ahead with actually chest problems, like heart problems, and even go ahead with joint problems.
There were very many actually challenges with the child at birth. He got surgery before the age of 5. Yeah,
it can actually happen. Like as we've said, that during the before birth, it's where most the causes are. Almost we are looking at 80%, and it can happen to everywhere. Like we said, joint problems. We've seen has a condition called hypoglycosis, where there is abnormal growth, multiple joint contractures.
Okay.
It can happen. That's a congenital deformity, and sometimes you may not be able to get the exact cause. A child can have that and still have cerebral palsy, and still have a heart issue, and still have a lung issue. It can happen. So yeah, it always depends on how things happen, and at times we can't explain them in fact.
So as we wind up, is there a role that a mother plays, and are there things she can avoid or do before conception, even during pregnancy, that will give a child a better chance to come out way better?
Yeah, there are things we can do that can actually help us to avoid what we call the predisposing factors. We talked about when you're actually we are planning to have a child, it actually starts on the day when you plan to have one. And your health determines the child you're going to produce. So usually encourage mothers that before you even think of having a child, first also do certain tests. You get to know how you are. In most cases, we didn't talk about the rhesus factor. The rhesus factor can be an issue. It can also cause a brain problem to the child, especially if you and your husband are not a match, then it can also be a problem. So the tests you do can determine eating well, being healthy, exercising, avoiding drugs, avoiding smoking, drinking alcohol. There's no reason why you should be drinking alcohol and smoking when you're pregnant. It doesn't explain. you can't even explain that. It means someone will be like, me, I used to do that and my child was okay.
Yeah.
It has not yet come to you, so you don't need to test. So it predisposes you to that. Then you have to just embrace antenatal. I know some mothers will be like, I did everything, but my child came out like this. It's understandable. But let's all try to embrace it, because when you do that, if there is an issue, it can easily be detected by a healthy worker, and you can be helped or managed. And also that means that also when you have that, when you do that, then chances of you producing from the hospital are very high, and you're most likely to get the best care in case of any emergency. And then when you look at when you're pregnant, try to feed well, eat well, take care of yourself. To the fathers out there, look after any mother who's pregnant, look after them. Because there is a lot that happens when a woman gets pregnant, starting from hormone imbalances, the shift of the emotional being, all that affects the child that this mother is going to produce. I want to talk to the church and the clergy. And the question I want to put out is, you have all the ministries in churches. How comes we don't have a ministry of disability in the church? Because that one will help us to bridge the information gap. So it's very, very important for all the clergy to understand that let's also try to embrace children with special needs or disability, and even persons who have grown up to become who they are and they have a disability. Because it will be very, very important for people to see that there is so and so is a child in church, but it's not as a result of witchcraft. It's not as a result of this and this. I quarreled with my auntie, I quarreled with my uncle, and this is why my child is like this. You get, so it's so funny. So, and the church plays a very big role, be it in the mosques or everywhere, all the clergy.
All right, so we are going, I'm sure the church leaders watching right now, and they're going to speak to their audiences, but I'll give you a minute to say your last remarks, as well as tell us where we can find you, and we shall close.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank you for this wonderful show, and also thank our dear viewers for the time, and also to encourage every one of us that if you know any child who is like how we've explained, please be able to send them to a health worker to get help. We run community clinics where we do therapy at a free cost in these communities, and that's Kasokoso, Katanga, and Senyi, and everything is done for it. But also there are so many centers where you can easily go and get help, like Polemam, where you can also go and get help. We encourage everyone to come today at Blend Gardens. It's very, very important. You'll find all the team of therapists, and this will help you to understand the condition of your child and also interact with the mothers and parents handling this child. Don't keep your child inside your home. It is so hard to put this child into isolation. Life will become so hard. But when you get into the community, then you understand it's actually very easy to handle this child. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those wonderful remarks, and that brings us to the end of the show. But before we go, indeed head to Blend Gardens in Boise and share with the community. Do not hide the child away, as you've heard from Felix. And also, if you have an eye problem, you can head over to Mengo on the 7th and 8th. There is a free eye camp, and you'll be able to get attended to. Otherwise, thank you so much. It's the International Cerebral Palsy Awareness Day, and that's why we have this topic here. I am Viola Sassia, NTV Medical Matters, supported by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Have a good day.